You're listening to the It Takes a Village podcast, episode 54. This is where the struggles are real, the callings are heavy, the kids are sticky. We come together because it takes a village, and this is your tribe. Hey guys, happy Wednesday. Thank you for listening to the It Takes a Village podcast today. I, first of all, want to apologize for the fact that there was not a podcast episode last week. If you follow me on social media, you knew why there wasn't an episode. So if you don't, I was extremely sick. My son and I both were sick. We got whatever was going around, this awful virus, and it lasted for about a week. And it was so bad. It was so awful. Opening my eyes, just that alone, was the worst ever. I had a massive headache, and just as you can tell, I'm still a little bit stuffy. So anyways, I just want to apologize for there not being an episode. We are getting back to it. So today's episode is with Jen Rozenbaum, and she is the founder of Shamelessly Feminine, and she is a photographer who I recently met at the Boss Mom retreat that I was at last October. She's amazing, you guys. She is the strongest woman that I know, recently been through a double mastectomy. I wanted to bring her on because she is talking about how she empowers women through her photography, her double mastectomy journey, and now she's actually finished her chemo journey. But this interview was when she was going through it, and we're going to talk about the emotions of it all, the experience, being a woman, dealing with losing your breasts. Oh my gosh, it's just so good, and she's so empowering. I can't wait for you guys to listen, so let's get to it. So yeah, for those that don't know you, and I want to kind of start there in who you are, a little bit about you, and then we will go from there.
Sure. So my name is Jen Rozenbaum. I live in New York, and I started my career about 9 years ago as a boudoir photographer. For anybody who doesn't know, boudoir photography is typically sexy images of women, usually in lingerie or implied nudes. Most of my clients really wear lingerie. And the point of why I do what I do is so that women can express their femininity shamelessly. And the way I got into it was really through a struggle of infertility. And I learned to teach myself photography to deal with that struggle. And 9 years later, here I am. And what I do now mostly is educate other photographers on how to do what I do, as well as shooting clients still. And most of my clients these days really do it for themselves. They do it to combat things like divorce, to celebrate things like 40th birthdays, to get their bodies back after they have a baby, medical issues, things like that. So we're really doing this to celebrate occasions that are sometimes good and sometimes bad, to be honest, but to really gain power. And that's really my first career. And then from there has really, the Shamelessly Feminine movement has really gained some momentum. And that's what I was at the Boss Moms retreat to speak about. And that's really more about what I've learned as an entrepreneur and a woman in business, and how I have gone from struggle to success, and how I can help other women do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was watching your TED Talk to note about like these women that I, even hearing you speak, I knew that, you know, like this was the passion behind your photography business. And, but you always still like, somehow you remove yourself from the things that you relate to in a way. And I, you know, I've always thought of, oh, I want to do it someday for my husband, or, you know, because like life happens, and like, when is the last time that I've ever worn something like that? It's probably been like our honeymoon, you know, or,
Right.
And so, but then there is a part of me that, you know, is like, wow, well, like, I don't see myself the same anymore. Like when my husband and I first met, I was way more proud of my body than I am now. And when I watched your TED Talk, you talked and shared the stories of these women that, you know, you had the honor of taking their images, and really shared the reasons why they wanted these images made. And it was really neat to see, like, you describe them before, like how they describe themselves, and then to see the images that you took and really bring out those things that they needed and wanted to see in themselves.
Yeah, so I don't really, it's funny because I'm a photographer by career, but I really consider myself a photographer-therapist because there's a very big therapeutic aspect as to what I do. And, it's a powerful thing. And it's funny because I used to take like 300 clients a year. Now I take anywhere between 25 and 50 because it's almost like too emotionally difficult for me to take on so many clients because I am such an what is the word I'm looking for? I'm very empathetic to my clients.
Yeah.
So I really take on a lot of their feelings and their emotions and their energy. So for me to really give them 100%, I really need to be able to take fewer clients as well.
Yeah, for sure. Because I mean, you're like the, I don't know, like the rose colored glasses kind of like, it's like, but in reality, like it's like, here is the best of you that you don't get to see every day. Like here is what I see. Like, let
Yeah.
me show you. And that is so awesome because I mean, I think that's the number one struggle that we deal with as women is how we look, because everything is based on social media and like celebrities, and you're seeing, like all these things that you should and whatever that are being advertised to you that you should do for your body and this and that. And then, like we're not photoshopped. So then when we look at ourselves, we're like, what, like what happened
Yeah.
here? And and although like those things are totally not needed and we are beautiful, as are, like it becomes like an outward struggle that goes inward, and it just cultivates over time if we don't like figure out how to see what others see. And so I think that you are kind of like the bridge to that gap.
Yeah, and listen, I struggle with it too. To say that I don't struggle with it would be a lie. And that's part of why I do what I do, because being around women and helping heal them in that way helps them heal me as well. And I have those days where I go, oh, the scale says more than I wanted to say, and it'll put me in a bad mood, or, and then I go, well, wait a minute, why? That's so ridiculous. And perspective is an interesting thing. And over the last year or so, my perspective on a lot of things with body image has changed so much because, as you know, I'm going through another health struggle at this point. I was, diagnosed with breast cancer this summer, and I had a double mastectomy. And I know I'm bringing that up. I don't know if it's something you wanted to talk
No,
about,
yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah, but for me, essentially amputating my breasts, which was one of the parts of my body that I actually loved the most, ironically, and learning how to live as a woman and feel feminine without them has really given me a whole new appreciation for my body. And in a way, I love it more now than I ever did before, even though it's so much less perfect than it was even 6 months ago. And I was like going to the gym and I was dieting and I looked really good. Right now, I feel pretty good. And yesterday I had a chemotherapy treatment, and I was at the nurse's office, and I said to her, you need to weigh me, don't you? And she said, sure. So I got on the scale, and she said, well, it's in kilometers. Listen to me. This is my problem. This is like a chemo brain thing. Like the wrong words come out all the time.
No, that's like an
Anyway, it
everybody
wasn't.
thing.
Oh my God. I swear, even when you give birth, I swear you lose half your
Yes.
brain with your children. It's crazy. But it was in, European measurement. We'll say that since I can't think of the word. So, she said to me, if you press the button on the bottom, it'll tell you what it is in pounds. And I said, I really don't care what it is in pounds. I'm eating cookies anyway today. I'm alive. Who cares what it says? And that whole perspective has really shifted a lot of things for me as well.
Yeah, we don't keep a scale in the house because I never wanted to like constantly. I knew that if it was there, like that would be a struggle for me, or I'd be checking it. And so I didn't even want to have that. Like, so I immediately took it out, and I didn't want my daughter to see me hopping on it all the time, or like, being defined by a number. And so we don't have one. And
Yeah.
that has been like the best thing ever. But I did want to talk about, kind of this journey that you're on now, that going through breast cancer, and like how was going through that. So I know that obviously the news was probably very hard and devastating, and I can't even imagine what that would be like because I haven't experienced it myself. So what were like some of these things like in those beginning moments that you thought that going through breast cancer would be like, but that it ended up being different from what you thought it was going to be?
Sure. Well, being diagnosed was a shock for me because I don't have any family history. I take very good care of myself. I exercise. I eat well. I'm not a big drinker. I don't do drugs. I was 41 years old at the time, so I'm young. I was always very aware of what could I do to keep myself healthy. And so being diagnosed was very shocking. And I have to say, for anybody out there that's listening that has been diagnosed or will be diagnosed in the future, anything of that nature, the hardest part of the diagnosis is from diagnosis to doctor's appointment. So that period of time where you have no idea what's happening is a nightmare because your brain will get the best of you because you don't know, do I have stage 0 and I just need a lumpectomy, or do I have stage 4 and I'm going to die?
Right.
Like, and you kind of go back and forth in your head, like, I'm going to be fine. What if I'm not fine? And it's very easy to go sort of down that dark spiral. And,
Yeah. And then you start Googling and
yes, you start doing all the things you shouldn't do. And then
yeah.
you tell people and people go, oh, I know somebody who had that and they died. Like you hear
Oh
all
my
the terrible
gosh.
stories. It's like really, really bad. So like that waiting period of like not knowing what's going on is really difficult. And the waiting period is long because you see the doctor and then you go for tests and then, it's kind of a nightmare. That is the hardest part of the process. That was absolutely miserable. And it taught me a lot of lessons in patience. I'm not a very patient person, so it taught me a lot of lessons in patience, and it really helped me train my brain for this whole process. Because anytime that I would start going down that dark path, I would have to stop myself and go, nope, this is not what's going to happen. Even if it's the worst news ever, we're going to fight this and we're going to be positive. And it doesn't matter what the doctor says. This is going to be fine, and you have to sort of like, as I said at the retreat, and I talk about this a lot, flipping the script. What do you want your mind to think? Because your mind is in control of so many things consciously and subconsciously. And, it does, I really do believe your health is tied into your brain function. Even though all these years I've meditated and I've done yoga and I've done all those things, and I go, wait, how did I get breast cancer? It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is I have it, and it could just be a fluke thing. And I have to train my mind and my body to know that it's going to heal and it's going to be okay. So it starts from like day one. So that was really the hardest part of the whole thing. Once I was diagnosed and I knew what my challenge was and we decided to have a double mastectomy, I was like all on board. I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's do it now. Like, because walking around with cancer is like in itself cancerous. It's like, you just want it out of your body. You're like, just get it out. I don't want to wait another day. And I was very nervous up until I would say the day before my mastectomy. I was very calm and very sad. There was a sadness, of course, but I would choose to, instead of saying like, okay, it's 7 days to my mastectomy, I would text my dad every day and I would say, oh, Dad, guess what? Today's 7 days until I'm cancer free. Today's 6 days until I'm cancer free. So even with that, I tried to like let everybody around me know, like, guys, this is not something to be sad about. In a week, we're not going to have cancer anymore, So just trying to flip the script and looking at it a different way. And I have to tell you, I am now 3 months out. Actually, this week is 3 months since my mastectomy. I'm obviously undergoing chemotherapy as a preventative measure. I don't technically have cancer anymore, but they are treating me to make sure that any of my cells that may have escaped in one way or another are being killed. So essentially it will it will take me down to about a 10% chance of reoccurrence, which in a way sounds scary, but the truth is everybody walking around on the planet has somewhere between like an 8 and 12% chance of getting cancer. So in that way, I'm just like everybody else now, which is good. And sometimes I feel weird saying this because I don't know how people are going to take it, but I'm just going to tell you that in a way, cancer is the best thing that's ever happened to me because it's changed my perspective on so many things and it's changed my priorities. And it's been sort of a big cleaning up of life for me right now. There's a lot of things that needed cleaning up in my life that are being dealt with. And, it's interesting because the timing is a little bit difficult because I have so many other things going on, but it's almost like I don't have patience for the crap anymore, and everything that's not right is going to be made right because the truth is I don't know, and you don't know, and none of us know how much time we have left on this earth. So, but for me, it's more real than it is for people that have not been diagnosed with an illness. So if I'm going to have 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, I'm going to live it the way I want to live it.
Yeah. And I think that's not uncommon for like, whether it's, finding out you, like you have cancer or a major illness, a major surgery or a near life or death experience. Like, I feel like it's when it's these big, like life changing moments or like bottom rock moments. Those are the times that like you do have those, wow, like, what I was worrying about all this time, like those things don't even matter because I only have this one life to live. I have this one chance. And I think it just kind of makes the small things like disappear and you really get to gain this perspective that like you somehow lost along the way.
Yeah. And it's interesting because in the beginning I was always envious. Like, so I had my mastectomy August 2nd and school around here started September 5th. So, like right around September 5th, all of my friends kept saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe we have to start the grind of school again. I'm so not looking forward to it. And making lunches and sports and, I don't want to go back to real life." And I just remember thinking, screw you. I would do anything in the world to have a real life back, like I'm not living a normal life anymore. I'm living a whole new life. And I would do anything to go back to my pre-cancer life.
Yeah.
And so I was bitter at first a little bit. And now it's sort of turned into like, they should be jealous of me because my life is totally different now. Like on a Sunday, I might be like, hey guys, let's screw all our responsibilities and go do something fun that we've been wanting to do.
Yeah.
Or let's just like forget homework today. I'll write a note and, let's go to the movie we wanted to see. And I'm not saying I live my life like that every day. That's not okay either. But, I just don't sweat the small stuff anymore. It's really not worth it. And like I said, I don't blame people who do because they don't know any different, and that's okay too. But, my perspective is just different.
Yeah. How did you share the news like with your kiddos that like this is what's happening to mom and like how do you tell them something like that?
Yeah, hardest day of my life. I may even get emotional talking about it, which is funny because I don't really get emotional talking about this that much. But
that was my goal.
Yeah,
no, I'm just kidding.
Right, I know. It's so funny. Every time I teach a workshop, my husband goes, "How did it go?" I go, "They cried, so I must have done well." That's like far, right? So my kids were actually at sleepaway camp when I got diagnosed, and I was really grateful for it because I needed a little bit of time to figure out what I was doing before I could tell them. And I really wasn't one that could hide it. I mean, I was crying like 24/7 when I was first diagnosed. So the interesting thing is we went to pick them up from sleepaway camp, and I was so nervous because I'm thinking, okay, we're picking them up from sleepaway camp. They're coming home after 3.5 weeks of not seeing us. And they're like so excited to get back to normal life. And I have to be like, by the way, I have cancer. And by the way, my kids are 12 and 8. So they're aware, but not aware of certain things. So it's so crazy how the universe works. I have to tell you, we went to pick them up and my son was wearing this bandana around his neck. I said, "Where'd you get that from?" He said, "Oh, we had a community service day." I said, "What'd you do on the community service day?" He said, all these organizations came in and told us about the different charities that they have. And he was wearing a Susan G. Komen bandana. So I said, we give them money in the beginning of the camp season to donate their money. He said, "I donated all my money to Susan G. Komen."
Oh my gosh.
So I like got the chills. I was like, I can't even believe this is happening right now. So we took them home and I sat them down immediately because I just couldn't wait. It was like I was so stressed to tell them. And I just said to them, "Guys, listen, tell me," I started it with, "Tell me about your community service day and what did Susan G. Komen talk to you guys about?" And they told me that they learned about mammograms and breast cancer detection. And I mean, these are young kids, so it was like really helpful for me. And I said to them, "Well, I just want you guys to know while you were away, mommy had a mammogram and they found something that wasn't great. And it turns out that mommy has breast cancer." And they kind of looked at me blankly, and I explained to them immediately, "You don't have to worry. I'm going to be okay. But I do need a surgery. And, it's going to be a tough surgery, and it's going to be a little hard for me to recover. So we're all going to have to chip in as a family." And once they heard about the surgery, they got upset. My son especially, who's only 8, because he's very attached to me, and very upset that I needed surgery. And I just, because for them, that's really the tangible part. Like they don't understand cancer, So I just explained to him, "I'll be okay. You don't have to worry." And, I just kind of have always stuck to that story, but they were upset. And I just said, we're going to live as normal of a life as we can. And if you have any questions, I'll answer them honestly for you. And my son didn't really have very many questions, but my daughter asked me things like, "Are you going to have scars? Are you going to have stitches?" And I told her I was. And she said, "I really just don't want to ever see them." I said, "I will respect your wishes. No problem." And, I didn't explain to them the depth of the surgery, but they know because they started asking questions, did they take out tissue? How come you look different? And I've explained it to them and they know that I've never used the word mastectomy, but they know that I had tissue removed from my chest and that I'm going to need another surgery to replace it. AKA reconstruction. And, one of the hardest parts of it for me is and that you may be sort of dead and numb in that area. And that really got me because I'm a hugger. And especially with my kids, huge cuddler and hugger. And my son is 8, but he's still kind of small. So he we're going to have to kind of figure out another way to do this. So, the day after my surgery, he came over to me and he hugged me around the waist, like really hard. And I said, "Thank you so much. I really needed that love. Like I really feel it from you, even though I can't hug you on my chest." And he said, "Don't worry, mommy. That's a real hug." And they've been very loving and understanding. And the funny thing is, I have expanders in now, so I have like these. They're like they look like boobs. Anybody from the outside would not have any idea that they're not boobs, but they're not boobs. They're like hard and they're high and they don't move and they're really uncomfortable. So he hugged me the other day, like for real, and he said, "I'm so glad we could finally start hugging again." And I said, "Does it feel like it used to?" And he said, "Yeah, but your boobs are really hard." So there's laughter about
Yeah.
it, sensitivity about it, and we laugh about it because you have to.
Yeah, of course. Oh my gosh. So I don't even know. I like my boobs are not my favorite part of my body because I've nursed two kids and they just don't look like what they look like. But even so, I feel like, you have like a few things that as a woman make you feel feminine. And so how did you get over that? Like, how did you go and say like these are coming out, and how did you have that mindset of like, no, like I don't care, these need to come out, and like moving forward and being able to accept your new body and look at it from, like you said, that script flip of a perspective?
I mean, here's the thing. I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
It wasn't an option. It wasn't like, as the surgeon said after my surgery, your right breast was littered with cancer. And my left breast, they didn't know. They couldn't see it on the MRI, but it was a start of cancer in my left breast as well. So I didn't have a choice. When you don't have a choice, how miserable can you be about it?
Right.
Like anytime I went down that road of like, oh, I really don't want to do this, I just said, you don't have a choice. Do you want to live? If you want to live, you don't have a choice, And so it was just training myself to say, this is what you need to do. So I'll tell you a quick story. After my mastectomy, the night of, they really don't bandage you because they want to see it and they want you to see it every single day to make sure. I'm sorry, I have a little cold, so if I sound a little nasally, I'm sorry about that. But
don't lie, you're really just tearing up. No.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so no, stuff is going around right now, so I totally understand.
So they really don't wrap you. So the night of the surgery, she opened me up to take a look at me. And I said, will you take a picture for me? Now I'm a photographer, so I need a picture of everything, right? And she said to me, really? No one's ever asked me for a picture before. And I said, well, I really want to see it. I want to see what it looks like. So she took a picture and she said, are you sure you want to see it before you look at it? And I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure I want to see it. So I saw it and it was ugly. And she said to me, what do you think? And I said to her, it's pretty badass. And she was like, what? Like, I don't think she ever heard that reaction from anybody before. And I just said to her, do you know how lucky I am that every time I want to do something hard in my life that I think I can't do, all I have to do is look down and I have a scar to show me or two scars to show me I could do anything I put my mind to. And it almost became, for me, having the mastectomy was almost like a challenge of my strength. And can I get through this without being a mess, And I'm not saying I don't have my moments. I don't want to make it sound like I'm not human. I have my moments of like, crap, I really miss my boobs or my cleavage or, my clothes that don't fit me anymore or whatever. But the truth of the matter is, when it comes down to it, who cares? I'm here. I can't hug my children if I'm not here. I can't take care of my family and run my business and change women's lives if I'm not here. And in order to be here, I had to amputate part of my body.
Yeah.
And that's it. It's really very black and white when you really think about it. So I understand why people may not understand that because I've worked with people before prior to their mastectomies where I photograph them and I always leave them feeling like I can't even imagine what that's like. But what I imagined it to be like and what it was like for me was actually very different. It was a lot easier than I thought it would be because I just didn't have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's a good perspective of like, it's different when, man, it's like your life basically,
And here's the whole point of what I do for a living in photography is that nobody loves you because of your breasts. Nobody loves you because of how skinny you are or how fat you are or how, tall you are. People love you for who you are. People love you for, they see you differently when they love you. You have a different aura. You have a different look to them. I mean, we've all done this, right? Like we've all dated. We've all like, let's say dated a guy who was like the most handsome thing ever. And then he cheats on you and you look at him and you're like, what did I ever see in you?
Yeah.
When people look different or you meet somebody who's maybe you're not so attracted to, but you get to know them and you're like, oh, you're actually really kind of cute,
Yeah.
Your looks actually do change based on what people see in you. And this is not just about looks because really who cares? You could be the ugliest thing ever and somebody, can love you, right? But what I'm saying is for me, if the people in my life only love me because of my breasts, well, they suck and they should just leave, but I would like to think that it's not about that. Even with my husband, it's not about that. So what I am runs way deeper than that. So I don't need my breasts to be feminine. Would I like them back? Yeah. I mean, 100%, they were
Yeah.
part of me, but I don't need them to feel
Mm.
good. I just decided that I just don't need that. It's a decision. There's a lot of decisions that you make in life, and these are some of the decisions I've just chosen to make. And it's not to say I don't struggle with the decisions, but 99% of the time, I just don't let my mind go there because it can be very depressing.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, like, what's the alternative? Like when we let ourselves go, because I do it all the time, and now like talking to you, there's a lot of things that as you're talking about body image and how we feel about ourselves, I'm like, yeah, like why, like those things don't even matter. Like, and my husband tells me all the time, that he doesn't care about how my boobs look because when we first met, they were perkier, but I also didn't have two kids. And now I have two kids and they look different, but we have two kids, like that
Right.
are so worth every bit of the change that my body has ever made. And so I think that it is really like about changing the way that we think things through.
Right. And here's the deal. We're not going to look 22 for the rest of our lives. I don't care who you are or how many kids you have or don't have or how much plastic surgery you have.
Yeah.
You're never going to look 22 unless you're 22.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think that the people that age gracefully and the people that have confidence are the ones that have learned to love and accept who they are in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to say that I haven't done things here or there, had a facial or colored my hair. I don't want people to see my grays, things like that. But I'm talking about, there's a difference between doing something to feel good about yourself and altering your body. And I'm not against that. If somebody wants to have plastic surgery, more power to them. But I just think that it's sometimes hard for me to watch women that are older try to look so much younger.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like I would like to think as I get older, I can embrace who
Mm-hmm.
I am. I want to be the best version of who I
Yeah.
am possible. I don't want to be my 22-year-old self again. I want to look as good as I can at 42 years old, but I don't want to look like a 22-year-old because I already did that, and 22 was a lot of fun, but I'm not 22 anymore.
Yeah.
I'm 42 now. So I would like to be the best 42-year-old I can be.
Yeah, that's so true. So now you're going through chemo. How does that look like daily or, well, I guess you're doing it every other week? Or,
Yes.
okay, so how does that, for others that, maybe they're going down this road or maybe they have a friend who, so like, I just want to share all the experiences so that way we get a perspective and an idea of like what our sisters will be going through, what our friends will be going through so we can better like, have like empathy for them and reach out to them in the ways that they need to be reached out to and just have a better understanding instead of like assumptions of what
Yeah.
it looks like.
Chemotherapy is hard. It's actually, I think, harder than the surgery. Partially because you have the surgery and you're like lowest low as far as how you feel, but every day you get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. Chemotherapy is a roller coaster. You go up and you go down, and it's for somebody like me who's super type A and very high energy, which you may or may not be getting right now because I had chemo yesterday, so
Yeah.
I'm feeling kind of tired today. It's a struggle for me because I'm having chemotherapy over 16 weeks, which is essentially 4 months. It's a long time. And I'm about halfway through at this point. And so what happens is you have chemotherapy, and the day that, this is at least my experience, everybody's experience is a little bit different, but the day that you have it, it's essentially a wash that day because it's such a long process. I don't care if your actual chemo time, my chemo time is only like an hour and a half, but I'm there for 6 hours. I can't figure out the math, but somehow that works. You have to see a doctor, you have to see the nurse, you have to get approved for chemo, you have to wait for them, you have to get the chemo. I'm doing something called cold capping, which is basically freezing your scalp. And the idea behind it is that it closes down the capillaries so that the chemotherapy doesn't actually get to your scalp. So it's supposed to save your hair, which so far is working. Which is funny because I almost felt like I would be more upset if I lost my hair than my boobs, which is like a weird thing. But I figured it was worth a shot. The cold capping itself is torture. It's the worst part of chemo, to be honest with you, which is like weird because it's also the self-inflicted part. But the hardest thing I have about chemo is like I'm the kind of girl who like didn't even take an Advil before this, like
Yeah.
It's just weird. And so to be pumping your body with so much medication in one day, and poisonous medication at that,
Mm-hmm.
is really difficult no pun intended, it's a difficult pill for me to swallow,
Yeah.
because it's not who I am, and I don't like what it's doing to my body necessarily, except for the fact that hopefully it's killing the cancer cells.
Right.
It's tough. So the day that I have chemo, they give me a steroid. So I feel halfway okay that day, and I feel halfway okay the next day, which is today. I'm tired and I'm feeling kind of cranky because I have this cold now, but I'm able to function. I went to the grocery store and I did some stuff today. This day after chemo, if you do it every 2 weeks, they have to give you a shot to raise your white blood cell count. So I do something called an Onpro. It means that the shot is actually attached to my arm.
Mm.
So they put it on my arm, and it actually puts the needle in while I'm at the doctor's office, but it doesn't start dispensing the medication until about 24 to 26 hours after my chemo is finished. And then I get that medication, and that medication sucks because it actually increases the white blood cell production in your bone marrow. So your bones actually hurt
Mm.
because of it. And so they tell you to take Claritin. For some reason, Claritin helps make you feel better, but I don't think it really does. Or it does, and I can't even imagine what it's like without it. But it's really uncomfortable. So what will happen is today I'll feel okay. Tomorrow, progressively through the day, I will get worse.
Mm.
And by about 4:30 tomorrow, I'll pretty much be leveled. So depending on what time I start my chemo. So because I started earlier this week, by about 4:30 tomorrow, it will be, see you later, guys. I'm going to go up to my room and I'll see you tomorrow. And it's a weird feeling. It's like people say to me, like, well, what do you watch on TV, or what do you do to occupy your time? And I don't do anything. I really just lay there. It's not even, it's just an exhaustion, and it's a pain, and it's like not even a sleeping tired. It's just, I've never really felt anything like it. It's even different than when you have babies and they're like, making you exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a physical shutdown of the body. Like the body is just like, I can't function right now. And so I just lay there, and it's not even boring because
Yeah.
it's like, you just can't function. It's like, just leave me alone. If you just leave me alone, I'll be fine. And so from Wednesday night, it lasts a good 12 to 15 hours, I would say, in that condition,
Mm-hmm.
which thankfully it's usually overnight, so I can sleep. And then in the morning, I will slowly come out of it. And then usually by Thursday afternoon to Friday, I'll start feeling better, meaning that I can function and I can like go to the food store and I can pick up my kids from school. But if you ask me to like go to the gym, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Like I'm still very tired. So I would say it takes like a full week, like from Monday to Monday, to start feeling normal again. And then on the weeks that I feel normal, I'm running around like a banshee, and I feel good. My energy is still up at this point. Now, that said, from what I understand, the second half of chemo is a little bit worse, and chemo does get cumulative, so it might take me a little bit longer to recover. But the last like 2 months, I've been working like crazy on my off weeks, and then I have another week next week where I'm working. I'm going to be really busy next week, and then I'm going to have another chemo session, and then I'm going to take it easy for the rest of chemo. And my last chemo should be at the end of December, so hopefully we'll start the new year without any.
Yeah.
And that will be really nice. But yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. And one of the things I want to say to people to know how to support somebody is that I think it's always good to ask, like, can I bring you something? Do you want, because like a day like tomorrow, I might want soup, but I can't get out of the house to go get it.
Yeah.
Like I just can't move. But at the same time, drop the soup at the door and leave because we don't want to see you. And it's not because we don't love you or we don't want to, I just want to be alone. I don't know how else to explain that. Like I want to sort of just be, it's very hard for me to entertain people. It's hard for me to like have conversation. I don't even answer my text messages during that time. Like I'm not functioning in the real world. And so sometimes people don't understand because they say, well, you're home. I want to see you. But it's just hard to be around people sometimes. And it's not a depression thing. It's just a discomfort. Like imagine having the flu and then having guests over. It's
Right.
like not fun,
Yeah.
Um,
And
so that
I think that's so good that you said that. I think that's so good that you said that because I feel like most of us, like, just because we have no idea what you're going through or like somebody in this situation will be going through and, you feel awkward and you don't know what to do and you just like a part of you is like, oh, I want to take them something, but I just want to leave it at their door. But then you're like, oh, they might think that's really rude of me or like weird if I just shoot them a text like, hey, left something at your door. But actually, like you're saying, like that would be the best thing ever. So I think that that's really great that we talk about these things because
maybe the things that we wanted to do in the first place are the things that you actually need. And then, or like, if you weren't thinking of doing something like that, don't show up at somebody's
Yeah.
house and expect to like, have girl time, with your friend. Like you
Yeah.
just need to give her space. And
Yeah, again, and that's me. And you know what? Everybody could be different. And then there's some friends, like there's very few close friends I have that I can be like, yeah, come over, let's put on Real Housewives, and I'll fall asleep on the couch next to you, and I won't care.
yeah,
Like, and you won't care, and you'll help yourself to something if you need it. But those people are usually few and far between in our lives.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I don't know. I just prefer to be alone and sort of be in the moment with it. That's just my personal feeling. And like, sometimes I don't even want to be around my family. I'm just like, guys, just leave me alone. I just need to be in it. But that's also part of my mental strategy too, in a way, is to feel the feels, like to not numb myself, like even when I'm not feeling well, to feel it, because I want to remember what it feels like in a way, it will help me take care of myself better when this is all done. It will help me understand how other people feel when they're in the moment. And I just don't want to run away from the feelings. So I just prefer to be in it in the moment.
I think that saying that out loud makes other people, I always think that it's like we have all these thoughts that we're like, oh, that's really weird, but like there are so many of us who think the same things, and so when we share those thoughts that we feel are weird or dark or different or whatever, it just frees everybody else up who is thinking the same thing or feeling the same thing.
Yeah, I'm a big believer. I talk about this a lot, even in work, of running towards the pain. And I know that it's like it goes against everything that we believe in and everything our body tells us to do, really. But I just believe that when you run towards the pain and you experience the pain and you learn from the pain, everything good is on the other side of that. So if you numb yourself from that, what are you going to learn?
Yeah.
Like every success story in this country, and I'm not just talking about work success, I'm talking about life success, right? Every success story in this world is based off of struggle and pain and angst. And if you numb yourself and you run away from that pain, you're never going to be successful in life. And I'm not saying I welcome the pain. Like I certainly didn't want to have breast cancer,
Right.
but now that I do, I'm going to milk it for all that it's worth. It's a learning opportunity for me. And I just hope that I can teach others what I learned from this experience so they don't have to have the experience themselves, but can still learn the lessons. That's really the point.
Yeah. No, I'm learning. So mission accomplished now.
Awesome.
but no, yeah, I think that's very true because it's just like about being uncomfortable. Like you don't grow when you're comfortable, but there is growth in the uncomfortable. And so I feel like it's very similar in the same way in that. And I personally, obviously, I have not seen any growth like at all when I have been comfortable, but when I've been outside of my comfort zone is when it's been hard and it's been challenging. And it sucks sometimes, but then like you said, on the other side, you're just like, man, I'm so much better for that.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you and your husband handle this? Because I want it for other women who, are married and going through this, like how can their husbands support them? And for the husbands listening, because there are some men that listen. So how can they support their wives going through something like this? And maybe what are your tips on what they should not do?
This is a very hard one to answer because I think navigating other people's feelings that are close to you is one of the hardest things that I have to do. Because so what happens is I notice we go through times of like a lot of sharing of feelings, and then other times not so much. So like he'll shut down a little or I'll shut down a little, and what's happening is he might not want to tell me that he's upset because he doesn't want to upset me, but I can tell he's upset, and so then I don't want to say something to him because I don't want to upset him.
Yeah.
This also goes on with my parents, by the way. Like my mother specifically is like, she's having a tough time with this whole thing. But trying to I try not to tell them too much when I'm not feeling well because I don't want them to worry about me. But if I don't tell them that I'm not feeling well, how can they support me? So it's a very, very sticky widget, dealing with other people's emotions. And what I would say is with my husband, I mean, we just kind of give each other the space when we need it. And when I need something from him, I'm vocal about it. So one of the things for me, like, especially in the beginning of my surgery, I had a lot of pain in my chest often. And I would say to him, I really need you to like rub my legs, because if you rub my legs, I stop feeling the pain because my mind is distracted, or I'm just having a really hard time with this. And so giving people jobs is like a really good thing to do, because sometimes if they don't know quite how to show love, or they're, this is true for everybody, like if I say to my mom, can you come to chemo and bring me soup? She's like the happiest person in the entire world because she did something to help me that day,
Yeah.
even if I don't need soup, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, I gave her a job and she feels good. And so like everybody's happy.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing with my husband. Like, men are problem solvers generally in a relationship. So if I'm like, listen, I'm having this problem, this hurts, and this is what I need you to do to fix it, he feels like he's part of the process. He feels, and he is part of the process, and he feels wanted and needed. And I do long from him to tell me that he still thinks I'm beautiful and that he's still attracted to me, because I worry about that, of course. And he does do that. And I think he's actually pretty genuine about it. Like, I actually think he's like, I don't really care. You're still hot,
Yeah.
In fact, yesterday I got dressed up to go out in the city last night, and he sent me a text message that said, you look really beautiful today, except he sent it to my neighbor by accident. But, which is pretty funny. I said, it's a good thing you didn't send anything too dirty.
Yeah.
But it can be, cancer can be very lonely. That's really what I have to say about that. Even if you have a lot of support, it could be lonely for you, and it could be lonely for your partner, even when you're in it together. So I just think that communication is really important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess that's true, because everybody's journey is different. So like, even if you have a friend that's going through cancer or has been through it, like, it may look different for them than it does for you. And so it's hard for you to.
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend who just went through it, and her husband is like neurotic and is like trying to control everything she eats, You can't eat that. It causes cancer. I would tell my husband to go F himself. I'd be like, really? I ate healthy my entire life. Now I have cancer. Cookies is on the diet. Okay.
Right.
I don't know what to tell you. Like, I couldn't handle that, but everybody's relationships are different, and what the needs are different. And some men communicate better than others, and some women communicate better than others. And I just think that, it's a very hard way to navigate through. I absolutely 100% recommend even things like couples therapy. We've done it once or twice through this process, because sometimes you just need somebody to translate what's going on, mentally between you two. As much as my life has been impacted, so has his. He's not working as much as he used to. He's got to help me take care of the kids more than he used to. I mean, I do everything here. So for him, this has been a big life shock, like, he has to participate a lot more in things. So, and he's been amazing about it, but it's still a change, and life will change. Life will never be the way it was pre-cancer ever again.
Yeah.
So to navigate that new normal, is hard. And I remember before I started this process, I met a friend who also had a mastectomy and chemo. And she said to me, you're going to go through a very selfish period where you just want to take care of yourself, and you just need to take care of yourself, and you just need to do what you need to do to live, and it's going to freak everybody out because you've been taking care of everybody for so long. And now all of a sudden you're going to be just worried about you. And we did go through that. We went through a period of time where my husband was like, you're being selfish. And I was like, what did you just call me? Like, are you kidding me? I have cancer. Are you serious?
Yeah.
But, I know he didn't mean it. I know it was a heated conversation. And, but yeah, I am being selfish in a way, because I can be right now. I have to be, in order to live every day, I have to be selfish. And I'm not just talking about living because of my disease. I'm talking about like surviving, and like, just today I want ginger ale and soup and wings, and that's what I need to survive. And I'm going to go get that, like that. It's like that kind of a thing. It's like those little things become so much more important to you. It's like, this is what I need today to thrive, and I need you to wait on me and get it for me because I can't go to the store, that kind of a thing. And like giving people those jobs and just communicating and being a little bit selfish is actually a lesson probably every woman can learn if you really think about it, because we take so much on, we take care of ourselves very little. And I'm sort of enjoying this stage in a way of like, you know what do I want? What do I need? Like, I'm very out of touch with that, So this has really helped me gain some perspective on that as well. And I don't think that's going to change. Like, I think it's good for me to be a little selfish sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's probably like one of the common things that comes up in a lot of our past, episodes, is that like, had I had been selfish for myself, like I would have been a better mother at that time. I would have been a better wife. I would have been a better, person. I would have felt better. And like, so, I think you're right that like we do need to be selfish because we do wear so many hats, and we are, like giving, that we also need to like take for ourselves for survival. Like even
Yeah,
when,
and I just think even like as you're saying it, that word selfish is such a weird word
mm-hmm,
because like nobody ever thinks of a man as being selfish because he takes care of himself
mm-hmm,
and he goes to the gym and he goes to work or whatever he has to do. Like, why are we selfish because we want to take care of ourselves? Like, I actually think it's pretty selfless to take
mm-hmm.
care of yourself and be there for your family. And, I just, yeah, I guess I kind of want to drop that word from my vocabulary a little bit now that we're talking about it because it's like, it's not actually selfless, it's selfish, it's selfless.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like being a better version of you for the ones that are around you, like your family and the ones that you love and
Yeah, and you know
yourself.
what? That's the other thing that I've really learned also. Like I am not going to live a watered down version of myself ever again.
Mm.
Like that is so lame. Like when you really think about it, it's like, oh, I don't have to go there because I want to take care of my kids, or I'm not going to do that because like even at the Boss Moms retreat, there was a lot of guilt of like, oh, I left my family for the weekend. Like, yeah, and so what?
Yeah,
Like
I didn't. That wasn't me.
yeah, but like, of course we all feel bad. Like I
Yeah,
travel a lot for work. I feel bad too, but you know what? It makes me a better mom. It
yeah,
makes me a better role model. And like, why do I feel bad about it? When my husband has to go on a work trip, nobody bats an eye.
mm-hmm,
It's like, okay, well, that's what you have to do to make a living. Okay. So like, I just think living like a watered down version of your life is so lame.
mm-hmm.
I said it.
Yeah. No, it's good. I have to. We're gonna write that one down.
Yeah.
Like,
It is. It's lame. It's like, who wants to look back at their life and go, well, I could have done so much more.
mm,
I wish I did so much more, and whatever that is. Like last night, like I said, I went into the city to do something fun the night of chemotherapy, which is so dumb, by the way, but because I feel kind of tired today. But the thing is, like, what am I going to do? Am I going to curl up on the couch or am I going to go do something that I want to do that makes me happy? Like, the happiness is part of my healing.
mm-hmm,
So when people look at it and they sort of judge, like, you did what the night of your chemo? I'm like, you can judge me all you want. Like somebody said, I posted something about it on Facebook and somebody said, you don't have to be, what did she say? You don't have anything to prove to anybody. And I
mm,
was like, this isn't about proving anything to anybody. You can go have chemo and lay on the couch. That's what I do 90% of the time. But today wasn't about that. Today I wanted to go have fun regardless of chemo. And I'm certainly not going to let chemo stop me from having a good time if I
mm-hmm.
feel okay. And it wasn't about proving anything to anybody. It was about proving it to myself. And it was
Yeah.
just such a weird comment. I was like, I'm not trying to tell everybody that
Stay in
this is
your
how they should
lane.
live
Yeah.
their life. Yeah, exactly. Like this is how I'm living my life today. Next week, I might be, like, wow, the couch looks like a good idea.
Yeah.
It's just, it's just the point of it was really just do what makes you happy, regardless of what struggle you have going on, because we all have struggle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, totally. And like, I kind of brought this up when I met you at the retreat, but like, I was feeling really guilty for being there, not because I left my husband or like my kids. Like, he is totally capable of taking care of our children, and I can trust him, and he gets things done, and he can get them to school, all that. But we lost our baby 3 weeks before the retreat, and so
Mm-hmm.
I was in that same place. Like, what are people gonna say? Like, why when I post that I'm there, like, why is she there? Shouldn't she be sad, or like, shouldn't she be doing this? And like, I had obviously I bought the ticket like way before I knew this was even going to happen. But then when the date was coming up, there was part of me that was like, well, no, I probably shouldn't go, because like I just felt like it was like a weird pull and push into like,
Mm.
but then I went, and it was like, it was so good for me, because not only like it was hard, like, and I had to be with all of my feelings because I was traveling by myself, and I like had a room by myself. And then, but other women that were there that were sharing their stories that had experienced the same thing, like that was such like a good thing for me. And then also like dancing and talking and meeting women. And it was that happiness thing that like I really needed. And so, yeah, like I think that it is really ignorant for us to judge each other like on what we do, because man, like sometimes we just need to do what we need to do to thrive and to survive and to like refill ourselves. And that's what I needed to do, and it was really helpful. And it was like for my husband and I, when we came back together, it helped us have like a restart to some of the conversations that we had left, when we were together. And so it was good.
Yeah. Yeah, and healing looks different for everybody
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day. And listen, I felt that same push pull. I wasn't sure if I was going to the retreat until like a week or so before. I mean, it was like I'm a cancer patient. Can I fly? I'm taking chemo right now. Like, is it the right thing for me to do to travel and go home Sunday night and then go have chemo Monday morning? Like, is that what a cancer patient should be doing? Like, and probably not. But the thing is that I decided that that's not the type of cancer patient that I am. And I fortunately have that luxury because I'm not dying, like I'm going to be okay. So I have that luxury.
Yeah.
I'm not saying everybody that is in my situation has that same luxury, but I have that luxury. And so while I have that luxury, why wouldn't I exercise that option? And I was nervous. I was like, I'm going to go on stage there and people are going to hear I have breast cancer and they're going to judge me. And they're going to say, what are you doing here? Why aren't you with your family? Why? But you know what? It's the best thing. Like with the times that I've traveled during this experience has been so hard. Like I was nervous. How am I going to get my suitcase up on the overhead bin? Because I still can't raise my arms that high from my surgery. And, like I'm a fiercely independent person. So to ask for help is like not in my genre.
Yeah.
So it's like very humiliating for me in a way to have to ask for that help, but I'm learning how to do it. It's another lesson, but, I was going to make another point about, I don't know. I was just very nervous that people were going to judge me. What are you doing here? And it's not okay for you to go and travel and have fun and do all the things you're doing when you're doing this. Oh, what I was going to say was the point is that when I came home, I always realized that like that time away gets you out of your head, like it's so good to not think about cancer for a few days. Like, even though I did, and people are like, how are you feeling? And what's going on? And we spoke about it at the retreat. It's different. You're not in the thick of it, and that heals you also. It's, right after I was diagnosed on a Wednesday. And that Friday we were scheduled to go out to the beach for the weekend. We had rented a beach house with a bunch of friends. And my husband said, should we go? And I was like, yeah, we're going. What am I going to do? I'm either going to sit around here and be miserable, or I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get drunk. I'm going to have fun and I'm going to dance my ass off with my friends. And I'm going to celebrate my body for what it is now before it's chopped up, yeah, I'm going to go out there and have fun. And that's what we did. And it saved me because you remember I said that like time between like diagnosis and doctor was so hard. I was so depressed going into that weekend and I came home feeling so much better. Like, okay, there's going to be life after this. I'm going to make sure of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's so true. Yeah, so before we end, I want to just acknowledge you in that, like, you already know I think you're awesome. So, in the fact that you wore, like, pink heels to your your mastectomy
My mastectomy.
Yeah, like, I'm just, for one, like, I hardly wear heels because I don't look normal in them. But, like, just walking in them is not for me. It's awesome to, like, get those vibes from you. Like, this thing of, like, overcoming triumph and like being brave and yet like being yourself and being confident and just embracing, like you said, the pain. And I think it just radiates off of you, like. And so I think it's very inspiring for other women to kind of hear your story. And if they get a chance to hear you speak, like, they will know what I'm talking about. And obviously the people listening will know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I think it's just awesome what you're doing. And I'm excited to see you grow Shamelessly Feminine because it's awesome movement and definitely needed.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, for sure. So I have 3 last questions for you. The first being, if you could choose one of the most influential books that you've read, what would it be?
Hands down, You're a Badass by Jen Sincero.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing wrong with that book is that I didn't write it because I so could have. Like, to the point where people come to me like, I really think you wrote this book. I was like, I know, right? Like, she drops F-bombs. Like, I like to curse. I didn't curse on your podcast out of respect, but I do curse. But yeah, I love that book, and it's the kind of book, it's like, I consider it a reference book. Like it's a keep on your night table kind of a book. So if you're having a moment, it's a great distraction to be like, nope, we're not doing this today. We're going to love ourselves and we're going to read this book. And she just wrote a newer one that says, it's You're a Badass at Making Money. I'm not done with it yet. I started listening to it before I was diagnosed, so we had a little stall in that, but, yeah, it's listen, I have a lot of fire in me to remind myself that I'm a badass all the time. Like, I actually wear a bracelet with the Morse code badass on it because I just am one and want to be one and want to feel like one at all given moments. But none of us do feel like that at all given moments. Yeah. So it's just kind of good to have a reminder once in a while when you're like doubting yourself, like, okay, you can do this,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you could empower women in one way, what would it be?
I mean, that's a no-brainer for me because I'm already doing it with my photography. But my goal is really to this year in 2018, especially really branch out to the shamelessly feminine movement and do more public speaking. And I will be writing a book and just reaching women more that way, more women entrepreneurs specifically, and helping them gain the confidence that they need in their business.
And then if you could tell your younger self one thing, assuming that she would listen, what would it be?
Enjoy your body. Stop thinking you're so fat because you're not fat.
I know.
I always say if I had my 42-year-old mind and my 22-year-old body, I would be so in trouble. Like it would be amazing. But no, I just, listen, I don't live life with regrets either. Like people ask all the time, like, what do you regret or what would you change? I don't live life like that. I feel like we've all lived our journey to get to where we're meant to be right now. And I'm pretty happy with where I am right now. So I think my younger self is pretty rad. I just wish she had a little more confidence, but that just comes with time,
Yeah. Like your journey is what makes you who you are. And if you were to have like that knowledge back then, you wouldn't have had like the experience from this journey. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I have the knowledge now is because I screwed up so much back then, So, and that's good. It's good. It's like, I always say I like to take calculated risks in my life. I like to, I compare it to jumping out of an airplane. That's a risk. But jumping out of an airplane with a parachute is a calculated risk. And if you can take good calculated risks in your life, sometimes you'll win, sometimes you'll lose. But at the end of the day, they always bring you somewhere.
So I know that every woman's journey with cancer is different, but we don't know what we don't know. And so I feel like just hearing one person's story can help us better community and rally around the women that we know who will be going through this same journey or something similar. And man, Jen had so many good wisdom thoughts. Even the last 5 seconds of her interview was a mic drop. What she just said was amazing. If you want to follow Jen and keep up with her story and how she's doing and all the things with her movement, Shamelessly Feminine, I will link in the show notes. If you go to ittakesavillagepodcast.com, you can go there, click on this episode, and find the links to follow her. Also, I love getting to know you guys better, and Instagram is kind of my jam. I just love that space. And so you can follow me over there at the Ash Carroll, TheAshCarroll. All right, guys, I'll see you next Wednesday.